it's Andrea, the South African girl living in Canada, where I talk about immigrating to Canada tips and advice. If you're immigrating to Canada, it's quite scary when you think about your finances and if you'll survive on your new income and who to talk to or get information from with regard to your personal finances, from financial immigration, transferring money to Canada, insurance, retirement solutions. You know, my concern when we moved was really finding the right solutions for our family and making sure there was a plan in place for retirement, especially when you immigrate and you're over 40 years old. So I'm here with Vincent Heys today at his offices in Oakville. I'm truly glad to have met in Canada. Vincent is an actuary and highly respected financial advisor and co-founder of Kingsmere Financial with a gentleman called Glenn Nokia, a Durban boy here in Canada, and they have offices globally. Hello, Vincent. It is so great to be in your beautiful offices here in Oakville today.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to have you.
Awesome. No, it's fantastic. So I really want to hear about your journey to Canada.
You know what, Andrea? I don't think I've met any couple that took longer than us to move to Canada. So we've put our application in 2007, just before the financial crisis. Mm-hmm. And it took us about 10 years to actually land in Canada. So it's been a long journey.
That is a long journey.
But my wife Karen is with me and our 3 kids. And so we had a great time the last 3 years in Canada. And I'm so lucky that my business partner, Glenn Nokia, moved with us at the same year.
Fantastic. So Glenn's from Durban. Where are you from? Cape Town.
Cape Town.
Okay.
Proper Durbanville.
Yes. Oh, nice. Let's talk about Kingsmere's footprint. Where are all the offices?
Okay. Andrea, we're a company of that's two and a half years old in Canada.
Okay.
But our roots are still in South Africa. So we have offices across South Africa.
Okay.
About 260 different financial advisors in South Africa.
Wow, nice.
In Canada, though, we have an office in Oakville and in Calgary and Saskatoon, with about 10, 12 financial advisors. And the focus really for us is on financial planning.
Okay.
You know, financial planning, investments, and insurance. And we kind of bring that kind of thinking that we employ in South Africa into the Canadian market, which is very different to the market here.
Yes.
And so that holistic kind of financial planning, we're embedding into the culture here with us.
I tell you, we need more people like you. I remember when we first landed here, it is just, you know, you come from such a different culture, you come to Canada and you're just looking for something similar. So that's fantastic. Do you have any other offices globally?
You know what, we've got an office in Perth through our network through Hereford.
Oh, nice.
And it's a great opportunity for us to work cross-border with clients. I've lived myself, and we lived in the UK.
Okay.
And so just that kind of thing of helping clients cross-border, we find there's a lot of value that we can bring clients.
Awesome, I can totally get that. Fantastic. So can you imagine starting a business in Canada? And I believe Vincent did that. So tell me about that and what are the challenges?
Andrea, it's not that easy. I mean, to start a business on paper, it's easy, but you know, to start a business in a country it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
So we've at Kingsmere we started 2.5 years ago, as I've said, and from past experience, I know it takes 3 to 7 years for a company to be established. And so again, to start a website, to start the paperwork with registration, this kind of stuff, is really easy in Canada.
Okay.
It costs about $1,000 to do that if you want to go to a lawyer. But to really start moving forward, you know that you need to build up the client base and all those kind of stuff, and it takes a long time. And very often we say to South Africans that if you want to come over and start a business, just make sure that you have at least 3 to 4 years of earnings available to support you in that process.
Yeah, that's wise.
It takes a long time, especially if you don't know the place that well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about the market also that you're in. I mean, you come from a different culture. I think you have certain expectations about, you need cheerleaders, and you come from a country where you had your referrals and people that could say, hey, Vincent's the guy, or Andrew's the person you need to speak to, and you get to this new country and there's no one, unless you're lucky enough to know people, in the country that you move to. But that, I think, is just super challenging, like for your heart to just get started. So I hear you. You need to have some funds and capital available.
Well, and I think the other thing which really helped us was Glenn and myself, we came together. So that 1 plus 1 doesn't make 2.
Yes. Totally.
It makes 3 or 5.
Yeah.
And then also we had the companies in South Africa that sponsored us.
Oh.
So I mean, without them, we were dead in the water.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I hear you. Thank you. Vincent, what would be your advice to anyone immigrating to Canada in terms of their finances while they're still in their country and then coming over?
Andrea, I think the best thing is to start on that global financial plan before they come over. really kind of start thinking about what is life going to be in that country when I move to Canada before moving. And so that really is about trying to understand what the financial goals are for the family, putting that down before moving over, and then start just talking to someone around the products. Because sometimes it's important to make some of those decisions before you actually immigrate. For example, from a tax perspective, sometimes it's good to withdraw some retirement money, for example, before you become tax resident in Canada. Otherwise, if you're tax resident here, your Canadian authorities look global worldwide income, and that may mean that you're going to get double taxed. Not double taxed, but you get taxed on the difference.
Okay,
if you're in a higher tax bracket.
I'm with you.
So
Excellent.
it's definitely kind of think, what is a global plan before coming?
Great.
Even though you may not implement any of those kind of products.
Could you, like if I had to ask you, Vincent, help me with my global plan, like what does it look like? Could you help me with all that information?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we do for clients is, as we say global plan, it's more like a hard currency as opposed to developing country currency kind of thing.
Okay.
So sometimes clients would have a plan for, let's say, protecting their lifestyle, which is life insurance.
Yes.
But if the insurance is in the country that where the currency devalues against the Canadian dollar, you've got a problem.
Right.
If you're going to pass away, let's say 5-10 years from now.
Okay.
So it's more about looking at the plan. You don't always have to take action, but at least to have some sort of plan in place before moving.
Totally.
The second thing is really to have a budget in place. Because you want to make sure that, and you talked about it the other day. How much money can I spend on financial products if I'm going to move to that to Canada, for example.
Vincent, I don't know if you've noticed, but once you've been in Canada for at least a year, you've put all these things in place and you've got your budget before you come, and you get here, and sometimes things change. In fact, you start to get used to using the currency. You understand really what is required of you. Maybe things are changing with your kids and schooling or university. It's something to consider after a while when you get here.
Yeah, I can't agree more, Andrea. And what I think about that is really that, we put a plan in place for ourselves and for our clients, but really sometimes the implementation of that, it can happen over 2-3 years, for example. So, myself, it took me 2 years before I did my tax residence in South Africa, not because I didn't want to, but the timing was right for me. So a lot of the time you may have the plan in place, but the implementation of those products will happen over time. And most of the time, it doesn't have to happen immediately. So we always advise the clients, let's make sure that we've got a plan in place, we know direction that we want to go, but very often, you have enough time kind of to implement the kind of stuff that you need to. That's
great. And I also think a lot of the time we put so much pressure on ourselves. Moving is stressful as it is. Really, guys, take your time. You can. Things are going to be okay. If you've got a plan in place and you're speaking to people like Vincent or Glenn, you're in the right hands, and just know that it's just going to take time, and that's part of immigration. What is your advice on long-term insurance, or as we call it, life insurance?
So life insurance, I'm going to answer it as follows. We've got critical illness.
Okay.
Then we've got disability income protection, and then life insurance. Okay. So all three of them are really geared for different needs for us as a family.
Okay.
So I think what is really important, when a family move over to Canada, you don't have the support of your family structure. So you kind of feel exposed if something happens. If you're in South Africa and you become disabled, you will have your parents maybe or siblings close by to help, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
But as you move to a new country, you're pretty much on your own.
Yes.
And so the best way to kind of mitigate that risk is just to buy insurance.
Okay.
So, but luckily in Canada we've got some great products, and we've got the products has some really great tax benefits for individuals. So again, there's different ways to buy. If we just talk about life insurance, different ways to buy life insurance from a product perspective. You can buy a product that's flat for 10 years, a 10-year term policy or 20-year term policy, all the way up to whole of life. And so the cost of that differs depending on the type of insurance that you buy. Okay. What is great here, Andrea, is that doesn't matter which product you buy, the premium stays flat.
Wow,
so
good.
We used to in South Africa with age rated, what they call. So the premiums kind of go up.
Yeah.
Every year you have to put that into your budget. What is great here is that the premium stays flat.
Nice.
So if you buy a 10-year policy, 10 years in the budget is
kidding.
So it doesn't go up.
So we've spoken about life insurance. Let's talk a little bit about short-term insurance.
Andrea, so if you speak to Canadians here about short term, they don't understand that. So it's auto and home.
Okay.
Okay, not
Auto.
auto.
Not
auto.
auto and home insurance. Got it. Okay. Tell me more.
Okay, so we don't, at the moment, we don't implement those insurance for clients, but by any means, they can speak to us and phone us, and we'll put them in the right direction at least. But just from my perspective, what is interesting is the contract that you sign is not like in South Africa where it's a monthly contract and renew on a monthly basis and pay them on a monthly basis. Here, the contract is on a yearly basis, even though you pay monthly.
Okay.
But the contract runs for a year.
All right.
So you really only have once a year the opportunity to negotiate a better rate for yourself.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
All right.
The other one is it's always maybe good to check in with your broker to see if they put you in a good pool of risk. So that's just really a pool of individuals that they may be lumped together with the same kind of risk profile.
All right.
Okay, so ideally you want to be in a good pool because if other people don't claim, then the whole pool doesn't,
Fantastic. So that reduces your costs, right?
Yeah. So I think that's maybe just something to check if they can do that. Other than that, is always just ask for discounts and making sure that if you have no claim discount here, if you come from South Africa, see if you can get something from your insurance company there as a proof that you have there's no claim discount here. So
good idea. Very good idea. Didn't actually know that about the pool of risk. So that's very interesting. And so keep having that relationship with your broker and make sure that you are negotiating your annual contracts. Let's talk about the savings options available to Canadian residents. And I'm thinking about retirement savings, education savings, and then tax-free savings accounts.
So Andrea, this is a big topic.
I know.
Okay. So I've got a separate video on that with my channel, Vincent Heys.
Okay, good one. Did you hear that? We'll drop it in the description.
But I'll answer a couple of important things here for you. The first thing is we need to distinguish between a product and a fund.
Good.
Okay, so the product here is about a TFSA, RRSP, and RESP. I'll come back to that. So that's the legal structure.
All right.
And then underneath that is a fund, which could be a Morgan Stanley fund or a Schwab or any underlying fund that you invest in. Okay, so let's just distinguish between those two. When we talk about the first part, the product, it kind of splits up again between registered and non-registered.
All right.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So in South Africa, registered will be something like retirement funds.
Okay.
Non-registered in South Africa we call discretionary investments. Okay. So your registered accounts are anything that's governed by tax law.
Okay.
So you have an RRSP, a registered retirement savings plan, which is very similar to a retirement annuity in South Africa. Okay. Tax-free savings account, TFSA, and then RESP, registered educational savings plan, RDSP, RIFF, so it carries on. So there are multiple of these abbreviations, and so all of them has a different tax connotation to it.
Got it.
Okay, but I would think that the three most important ones, as you've mentioned, the first one is RRSP.
Yeah.
So that is saving for retirement.
Correct.
And you really get the tax benefit before, when you put money in. So you pay it into pre-tax dollars.
Okay.
Into your retirement registered retirement savings plan. That grows tax-free till retirement.
Okay.
Once you then become when you retire, you're drawing out, and then you pay tax on it.
Got it.
Okay, so then there's other tax implications, estate implications as well.
Okay.
Your tax-free savings account you pay with after-tax dollars. You pay the tax first, goes in, it grows tax-free, but then when you pull it out, there's no tax on that. Okay, so then the last one, which is really interesting for South Africans or foreigners coming in, is the RESP, the Registered Educational Savings Plan. And what is really great about that one is you get up to $2,500 per kid that you can put in, and the government add another 20% to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got one of those, so I'm very excited about that.
Which is great.
The thing is, though, Vincent, like for us, sometimes you arrive and your kids are teenagers or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had this fund a lot earlier, So I think for me, that's the one I'm really excited about. Because the government is also contributing.
Exactly.
It's a really great fund.
And they do backdate it to some extent if you've come in, let's say 3 years ago, and you're starting now.
Yes, they do.
So they backdate that as well as your tax-free savings accounts as well. So
fantastic.
If you can make up the full allocation to your tax-free savings accounts of $60,000 per year per adult, plus your RESPs, that's already a good chunk.
Yeah.
there's a massive amount of room in terms of your RRSPs here.
Okay.
It works a little bit differently than in South Africa because here you have to work first, get your allocation, what you can put in, your contribution room, and then you contribute it to in the next year. So
Okay.
it works slightly differently, but to a large extent, these kind of products are very similar from country to country.
Okay.
It's just more the abbreviations that differ.
I know, so we're going to have to work through those. So watch, look, and read the description at the bottom of my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to get all the information on that. But I think for me, it's just good to know that if you're immigrating, you're coming to Canada, that there are savings options available, and that's really exciting for me.
And they're good options with good funds underneath.
I love to hear that. Makes me feel confident. So I'm sure that a lot of you are worried about, are you going to get taxed twice in your country or in South Africa and in Canada? Help us understand tax. It's called tax residency versus financial immigration.
Yeah, I'm not a tax expert, but I've lived it myself. I think I've got a good understanding how this thing
He's an
works.
actuary, guys.
So your tax residency, you can be tax resident in both countries.
Okay.
Okay, so you can be in the UK or in South Africa, tax resident, and also in Canada.
Okay.
The only thing that happens then is that you, on both sides, you declare worldwide income, and depending on what you've paid in that, so whatever income you've earned in South Africa, you pay tax there. Whatever income you earn in Canada, you pay tax here. But then you have to disclose worldwide income on both sides, and they give you credit what you've earned in the other country.
Okay.
So if you're tax resident in both countries, you're effectively going to pay the highest tax rate somewhere. Okay.
Okay.
So ideally, you do want to give up your tax residency in South Africa and only become tax resident in Canada. There is a problem though, if you own a lot of assets outside of your pension fund environment,
Okay.
other than pension funds and property, because you will be seen as deemed sale. So there's capital gains tax on those
Okay.
assets
Oh.
when you become a non-tax resident in South Africa. Okay. There are some changes that came in March this year, whereas before March 2020, you had to disclose your worldwide income to SARS in South Africa, but they never really took it into account from a tax perspective.
All right.
So from March this year, you have to disclose again worldwide income. There's a double tax agreement, but it's just worthwhile for people that have moved over to Canada, they're tax resident here. Very simple to give up your tax resident in South Africa and making sure you pay the capital gains tax,
Okay.
and that's done.
All right. So I hoped that answered the question for a lot of you. I think that it would be wise to get in contact with Vincent or Glenn with Kingsmere Financial just to get the details on this. Make sure that you're talking to people, find out what you need to know about your tax. We've spoken about tax residency. Let's talk a little bit about financial immigration.
So Andrea, we've got this weird concept in South Africa called financial immigration, and I don't think it exists with other countries though.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of weird because the Reserve Bank want to make sure that they control money flow out of South Africa. So for example, you are allowed to move R1 million per year as an adult as part of your travel allowance offshore. You're also allowed to move another 10 million offshore per year if you get approval from the Reserve Bank and from SARS, for example.
Okay.
So financial migration should not be confused with tax residency.
All right.
If I want to become financial immigrated, then it's really a personal decision, whereas tax residency is not that personal. You know, it's like more yes and a no. Financial migration, if you do want to go through that, and no one has to do it, actually very few of my clients go through the process. And the reason for that is really why people want to do it is either bad stuff happened in South Africa and they say it's more emotional, I don't never want to go back, I want to break all financial ties with South Africa, I want to close all bank accounts, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they want to go back into South Africa as a foreigner.
All right.
Okay. The second one is you can only take out your retirement annuities if you do the financial migration, which is also a little bit weird because you can take out your preservation funds and pension funds without financial migration.
Oh.
Okay, so it's only your retirement annuities. It's kind of in the side pocket. You can only access it if you do financial migration.
All right.
So that's why the government has pushed into that direction with the previous budget in South Africa to say, listen, they're going to re-look at the definition of financial migration.
Wow.
And I think now this week some white papers come out to say maybe they will allow people, if you've been a non-tax resident for at least 3 years, to take out your retirement annuities without applying for financial migration.
Wow.
So there are a couple of things happening there, but I think the important thing It's just that there's a difference between tax residency and financial migration.
So something on a completely different, lighter note is, when I first got to Canada, I thought, I understand the Canadian dollar and I understand the South African rand, but the true reality of understanding your currency is, if a t-shirt is $5, man, that's cheap. It feels cheap, okay? Because it's $5. It feels like you're saying R5. And I don't know why. It's just a mental thing until you get the hang of it and you've been in Canada for a while and you really understand your currency and just you use the currency a lot more. And the same thing goes for, you could go to Starbucks and you pay $5 for a coffee. That is a lot of money, guys, when you really start to convert. And let me tell you, when you first come to Canada, you'll always convert and you actually want to die. But when you start earning dollars, it definitely changes. And another thing that comes to mind will be kids' pocket money. I don't know about you, Vincent. Do you pay pocket money to your kids?
You know what? I do for some of them.
Okay.
But I've stopped actually for the older ones.
You see. Why?
Well, you know what? There are so many jobs to do around the house, for one.
Yes.
And then for neighbors.
Yeah.
So we've got our kids mowing the lawn, snow shoveling in the winter.
Yes.
Go and help the older lady down the street.
Yes.
So there are a lot of ways to actually make some money here.
Yep.
And we just kind of encourage them to kind of do some work, and it's a lot of opportunities actually to make some money.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
why would I pay for them to do some other stuff with it?
Exactly. So there is a benefit. There's another saving for you. Your kids can get jobs. Both my kids are working. They earn the minimum wage, and it is so exciting for them to see their bank accounts grow. They've got apps on their phones for their banking, and you can start working at 15, 16. It's fantastic.
The other thing is just finally on that is education, for example.
Yeah.
When I speak to a lot of Canadians here, born Canadians, most of them say their kids pay 50% of their education after school.
Yeah, that is actually true. Absolutely.
So it is not all on the parents.
Absolutely. So that's very exciting for you to know, and really a great opportunity for your kids. Thanks so much for your time today. It's been really great chatting to you, Vincent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It's been
nice
great.
to see you.
It's good to see you in face, finally. Awesome. So I think for me, if you've really liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Look in the description for how to get into contact with Vincent of Kingsmere Financial. It's been really good.